All right, everyone, let's see. Okay. All right, so welcome to the Rockets live stream. I think we're waiting on a few more people to join. Let's see. Let's see how many people are watching. Okay, so we have one person watching so far. Nice. Welcome to the live stream. We're gonna go get started in a few. We'll just wait on a few more people to join.
Send me the link really quick. I can put it on my Twitter page.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Okay. Okay, give me a second. Okay.
All right, cool.
All right. Yo, welcome.
Hey guys, I'm just trying to get my camera fixed up here. It's cropping me out, so let me fix that and then we can go. All right. Okay, we should be good now.
All right, sounds good. Okay, now we got DJ. Okay, there we go. We got everyone on. All right, so should we wait a few minutes? There's only 2 people watching. Should we wait until 6:35, or should we just go ahead and get started?
We can start whenever. It's fine.
All right.
Yes,
just give them. Yeah, we're just giving like 1 or 2 more minutes or something. Okay.
DJ, we can hear you.
Yeah, you're muted on the StreamYard. Just
all right. Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. Perfect.
Nice.
Do we have a list of like all the questions already?
Yeah. I'll ask y'all the questions and y'all give me your thoughts on that.
All right, bet.
And then we're also going to talk about the Rockets making the play-in and so on, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
All right.
Is this Prezi Harden I'm talking to, man? The Prezi?
Yes.
In the flesh.
How many people in here right now?
Okay, there's one person watching, but the thing will be shown as a recording on the channel, so you can watch it, like they can watch it whenever. So I guess we can just go ahead and get started. So welcome if you're watching this as a recording, not live, but welcome to the Rockets live stream. And y'all sent in a lot of questions about the Rockets, so let's just go ahead and get started. So the first question is from Jaleel Johnson on YouTube. He asked, for Josh Christopher to get more minutes, do you think the Rockets are going to have to trade Eric Gordon? So any of y'all, you can just speak up if you have something to say.
I'll start. I'll say it isn't reliant on Eric Gordon getting traded, but of course, Eric Gordon getting traded will open up a lot of minutes for Josh Christopher. Right now, Josh Christopher is playing in place of Daniel House. I think him getting moved would ultimately open up for sure minutes for Josh Christopher. But right now, the player who's most likely to get traded on the Rockets is Eric Gordon. So for that question, I will say if that does happen, Eric Gordon will get those minutes. But he stepped in perfectly for Daniel House yesterday. I'm sure Silas will probably go back to House. I'm hoping he doesn't, just based on how good Josh Christopher looked yesterday. But I think in terms of that question, it comes down to Gordon House, though.
I'll go next. I personally think that Gordon has done nothing but help his trade value so far with the way that he's played recently. He's probably setting himself as a pretty solid candidate. We can sort of book him into being traded at the deadline. I hope that that's not what it takes to free up minutes for Josh Christopher, because I think he's played well enough to the point where I think he's earned minutes in this rotation. Maybe if it's not even, I mean, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. As long as he can get like 10, 12 solid minutes a game, I think that's really all that he needs for now as he slowly starts to develop. And then obviously it'll grow as the season progresses. But I think so far, Christopher's earned minutes regardless of whether Eric Gordon's traded or not, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I can definitely add on to like what you're saying there. Josh Christopher definitely deserves his minutes, and whether it be if Eric Gordon gets traded or just Silas finding some minutes, someone has to inevitably lose their minutes. And if it is by Gordon getting traded, we have to also take into consideration that the package that we're getting back from Gordon most likely will be a player, a 2, 3, depending, because Gordon's contract is pretty sizable. So it's not like it's really going to be like we can just trade him for a first round pick and boom, all the minutes go straight to Christopher. But definitely he is very deserving, especially after last night's performance.
What do you think happens to Christopher? Do you think he like ends up getting sent back to the G League? Just like going back on top of that question.
I sure hope not. Just he looks like one of those guys that's just ready. I was talking about this with my friend earlier. He has like an aura to him when he steps on the court. He brings that confidence. You saw it when he was shooting yesterday, 4 for 4 from three. He's pulling without hesitation. That was something that was a weakness of his coming out of college. And if he's doing that and he's already playing great defense, he played James amazing yesterday. That's a guy you don't really need in the G League. He just needs to play minutes, and it's going to come down, as I said with the last question, if they move House, or maybe he just gets moved over House, which I'm hoping, or if Eric Gordon gets traded, that opens up those minutes. If the roster comes to full health before the deadline and any of these guys are moved, then maybe he gets sent back down, but I'm hoping that doesn't happen. That's a guy that just needs to be put in the rotation, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a reason for him being back in the G League. He's performed pretty well at the NBA level already in the few minutes that he has played, of course, up until yesterday where he played, I believe, like 17, 18 minutes yesterday. Up until then, he was still playing really good in his minutes, even if it was just, for those final 10 seconds at the end of the quarter, just for his defense, he was still doing really well. He still took advantage of those 10 seconds, 15 seconds that he was in, and he made the most of it. And I think that's what you really like to see, is a guy who makes the most of the minutes that he's given, and that's what Josh Christopher is doing right now. I don't think he should be sent back to the G League. I think he's ready, and it's just a matter of time until, the vets either get traded or they get shuffled out of the rotation, kind of like what we saw with Tice. Hopefully we can see some of that with Augustine, Nwaba, House, etc. Once that starts to happen, I think Josh Christopher will prove that he's earned his minutes and he doesn't need any more time in the G League.
Right, yeah. I really don't want to see him go back to G League, but I do kind of understand if they end up sending Gup back down there, because right now we have to understand we're playing still without Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. So there's definitely a lot of allocating minutes that can be given. Not all of them can just be given to guys like DJ Augustine. Not all of them can be given to Eric Gordon. And it was for that reason that we really called up Gup. That, and also because the Vipers had a little bit of a stretch between their games. But once we start to incorporate Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. back in the lineup, if Josh Christopher's minutes end up like going down like a lot, sending him to the G League is not the worst idea ever, because at least then he gets reps, he gets playing time, and he does end up building chemistry with guys like Usman Garuba who was there with him.
Yeah, and Josh Christopher has been absolutely dominating the G League, like 22 points, 6.3 rebounds, 6 assists. Like, a guy is dominating that much in the G League. He doesn't deserve to be down there for too long. But yeah, so moving on to the next question. Let's go to the questions asked on Twitter. At In-Depth Texans asked, can this team make the play-in? And so far, as y'all know, we're only 2 games away from the 11th seed, and I believe the play-in tournament is between the 8 till 11 seed, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, so to the 11th seed. So what do y'all think about that? Can the Rockets make the play-in tournament?
I'll start by saying, the Rockets have a strength of schedule over 500 for the rest of the year, which is the top 5 hardest in the league. So it'll be tough off the strength that there's just a lot of teams that are more experienced than the Rockets. The Rockets are a young team. Of course, they've looked amazing these past 7 games with the system change, having more spacing on the court, and ditching that double big lineup. But it's going to be tough. There's a lot of good teams they have to play, and that's going to really put them to the test. I'm definitely not saying this team should go out there and tank and intentionally lose games just to get a good draft pick. I think they should go out there and win as many games as possible. I think that's good for a young team to get winning in their mindsets at a young age. So I don't know if they can make the play-in. I'm hoping. They're just on a great stretch right now. And I think the way they're playing it can be consistent because they have an identity at this point. That's a hard question. I don't know if it's realistic, but I would love to see this team make a push for it, to be honest.
Yeah, I personally, beginning of the season, I said don't be surprised if the Rockets do end up making the play-in tournament because they have the talent. It's just a matter of putting it all together. I mean, you have Christian Wood, who I think he's finally started playing at the level that we thought that he would be playing from the beginning of the season. And Eric Gordon's been playing really well. Jalen Green was really showing flashes when he was playing. I'm excited to see how he plays when he comes back in the system. Kevin Porter Jr., a little bit shaky to start off, but he was starting to round into form. All the guys were playing really well, with the exception of Daniel Tice, who was a really big issue for us with his fit in the lineup. Again, kind of like what Brado said, it's tough. It's going to be tough. We have a really tough schedule coming up, and I think it's important that people don't overreact to this win streak because when you look at the teams that we've beat in this win streak, they're not the best. Obviously, Chicago Bulls to start it off, that was a good win. But after that, you've got mostly just rebuilding teams or teams in the same tier as us, like the Thunder, the Magic, the Pelicans. So those teams, even the Nets were missing Kevin Durant. They were missing LaMarcus Aldridge. But again, that's not to take anything away from this team. These are all really, really good wins, and the team has played really well. But again, it's going to be tough to make it. But if this team can keep up at least some version of the way that they've been playing right now, because it's going to be basically impossible to keep up this level of play because this has been incredible what we've seen so far. But if they can keep up like some version of this, I wouldn't be surprised if they at least make like they're at least fall like just short of the play, and if not making like the 10 seed.
Yeah. Okay. So, I don't know about you guys, but I also agree. Like when the season first started, I was also pretty high on the Rockets, and I was like, oh, this team could definitely win around 25 to 30 games or something like that. Maybe make a push for like the 10th seed, like 11th seed. We'd be around that area. I thought we definitely did have that talent, and we definitely are showcasing it with this streak. But yes, we haven't exactly been playing the best of the best, the corner of the cob. But yeah, all it really shows is that this win streak, it's great for our players. It's great for the moral. It's definitely really, really great for Steven Silas, who was on the hot seat before this whole thing happened. So it really shows he was able to get to his players, and he was able to instill that identity in them, which is an amazing thing because that's something that every young and rebuilding team definitely needs. If they have an identity, they can work on working on that, and also working on whatever it is that they need to improve on. So with this team, if they do make the play-in tournament, it's great. But if at the same time, if we end up still having like a lottery pick and just like a top 5 pick or something, it's not going to be hurt. It's not going to hurt me. It's not going to hurt anyone else because I didn't have any expectations when it came to this team.
Yeah, this has like been a hot topic debate, like whether we should tank or like try to like win and get into the play-in tournament. And it's just like whether or not like how this team stands. I think for me, like after the trade deadline, how this team plays after that, with hopefully fingers crossed, maybe EG gets traded somewhere. Not that I don't like EG, is just that like he deserves to be on a contender for sure. Yeah, so we'll see after the trade deadline for sure. But for me, like whether or not we should tank, like I think it's just like trusting in Stone to draft good guys because like all the 4 rookies that we got, I think they're all steals in their own regard, in their own shape and form. So I think like I trust Stone to draft like a good player at whatever draft pick that we end up getting. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like a top 4 guy, like a lottery talent. Like so there's so many great players in the league who aren't top 4 picks. So like it doesn't, I feel like that shouldn't be the matter, like what we should be focusing on, just like focusing on our culture, because our team was in shambles in that like last season with like Silas in shambles, and like the whole team was like really upset, frustrated. And so it's really hard to like keep up with that like for multiple seasons. So I think what we should do now, like just try their hardest, and like we might lose games just to like a talent disparity. Like the other team has like 3 all-stars or something like that. Like we play the Warriors or something. But yeah, I think I think we should definitely just try to win games right now. And so yeah. All right. So the next question asked by HTX Roman 10 on Twitter. He says, how do we put Green back into the lineup when he returns?
I put him in the same way he was against the Chicago Bulls because he came out with 11 points, 4 or 5 shooting, and he looked amazing out there. It was the best game he had played, and he only played a quarter, and he looked like he was on his way to 30 or 40. it just comes in with the system change again. Like everyone on the team has played a lot better. Jalen Green's going to come in playing a lot better as well. So he can just come in and just do the same thing the rest of the team has been doing. I think it starts with this team having an identity, and they found that, and Jalen Green being inserted into this, situation that the Rockets are in right now, which is extremely well. They're going to be hooping. So Jalen Green's going to be hooping. So just put him in the same way. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a struggle to plug Jalen Green back into this lineup because one of the biggest reasons that the Rockets have been succeeding so far is because they've been moving the ball really well, which is why you've seen guys like Armani Brooks and Garrison Matthews play really well over the stretch because these aren't guys who normally create off the dribble. Armani Brooks has been creating a little bit off the dribble over the course of this win streak, but for the most part, these guys mainly get their shots through catch and shoot. And we've been moving the ball really well without having our point guard in Kevin Porter Jr. You can extend that and say John Wall, but we're not going to really consider that a factor since he hasn't played for us yet. But we're still doing this missing our two best guards so far this season in Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green. People might say Jalen Green's lack of playmaking might hurt it, but I don't really think that's going to be the case because we've already been doing really well as far as moving the ball around and distributing it without having a point guard or true playmaker in the sense. So I don't think Jalen Green's going to struggle. Again, like you said, 11 points in that first quarter before he got hurt against the Bulls. I would expect production, really, really, really good production. Definitely a lot better than the way that he started the season because now the spacing started to get figured out. The team is starting to gel and find to figure out how to work together in this new system. I think Jalen Green is going to hit the ground running once he comes back from the injury.
Right. And like also when you plug in Jalen Green, you also get an extra ball handler. Houston is short on that. In our last game, we started Armani Brooks and Eric Gordon to, they're more combo guard, or they play more of like the two guard versus Jalen Green, who is a shooting guard, but he also has a lot of great ball handling abilities. And with that, along with, the more spacing without the double big lineup out there, Jalen Green is definitely going to be able to flourish a lot more in this system, and I am just waiting for him to come back. So everyone who's been hating on the Rockets and on Twitter saying the Rockets went on this streak once Jalen Green got injured can finally, understand that it's not just that. It's because Christian Wood's finally playing center. The whole team is finally able to hit their shots, pass the ball well, and Jalen Green, once he gets back into this, he's only going to make this team better.
Yeah, I see a question in the chat relating to what we're talking about. Jilo Johnson asked, would you guys like to have Matthew stay in the starting lineup once KPJ and Jalen come back?
That's a good question. I think every Rockets fan would say Garrison Matthews has been hooping since he got on the team. So, of course, they would say, yes, I want Garrison Matthews in the starting lineup. But realistically, he won't be there full-time until Eric Gordon is moved. So, that's what I'll say. But if Gordon does get moved, Garrison Matthews is going to be a great addition to that starting lineup. He's been a great acquisition for the Rockets. He's shooting lights out. He brings energy. He's playing good defense. There's nothing else you could ask from the guy on a two-way contract. They need to change that very quickly. But I don't see him being in the starting lineup with the team fully healthy until Gordon gets moved, though.
Yeah, again, I wish that he could start. I think his fit is really, really good in this starting lineup just because of how well he complements the rest of the guys on the team because Kevin Porter Jr.'s shot from beyond the arc has been streaky. Same with Jalen Green so far. He started to find some rhythm, but he has struggled to consistently knock down the three-point shot even when he was healthy. Christian Wood also has started to build some rhythm. Jason Tate, same thing. But having that surefire sniper in that starting lineup, I think really helps with the spacing because besides that, until Jalen Green, Jason Tate, C. Wood, Kevin Porter Jr. C. Wood, I would sort of say that he's become reliable at this point, but Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green specifically, until those guys can start to earn the respect of the defenses that these guys are, if you leave them wide open, they're going to make it, which they've sort of earned in a way so far. But having that surefire shooter next to Garrison with them and Garrison Matthews really, really helps because just how dead-eye he's been so far. I wish that he would, and I hope that they do manage to put him into the starting lineup. But again, it's pretty unlikely just because of the way Eric Gordon's been playing and also just the fact that he has that role already. And it's going to be tough to sit a veteran player who's played so well for a guy who's just come in. Even though Matthews has played really well, it's going to be tough to sit Eric Gordon, especially with the way that he's been playing so far this season.
Right. Yeah. I honestly think it's more about the matchup. Coach Silas has said himself he doesn't have a defined starting lineup that he's going to play every single game. The lineup changes based off injuries, based off matchups. If there's a team that's more athletic, you're going to want to put more athletic players to be able to also fight back with that. If there's a team that's more big and more versatile, you should be able to do that. So whatever lineups there is, Coach Silas is probably going to just play whatever he can in order to combat that, because at this point we're not trying to win every single game. We're just trying to compete, and that's honestly the best. Compete with these teams and stay within like not by losing by 20, but just stay in. So and with Garrison Matthews, he has been playing absolutely amazing. He's so clutch. In the fourth quarter, I believe he's like 10 for 20 on like 3-point shooting. So he's shooting 50% from the field on that volume. It's amazing how clutch he is, and all on a 2-way contract. I definitely feel like once guys like Eric Gordon, Daniel House, anyone who does gets traded, they're definitely going to end up giving a contract to Garrison Matthews, because he definitely deserves it.
Yeah, it's really tough to manage all of that. Like, so many guys are balling out. Like, EG's also balling out too. Like he's shooting like, I believe, like above 40% from the field, and like about like 50% from three or something crazy like that. So it's gonna be hard to like manage all that. I don't know how Silas does it, but like, all right. So H-Town Drown, and I'm sure other people are wondering too. Would y'all consider trading Wood? So at what price? And I know there's like a lot of people at the very beginning of the season were like, yes, trade Wood, let's all go full youth movement. But now that he's having an all-star type season with averaging 60.3 points, 11.3 rebounds, 2.3 assists, 35.7% from three, 45.8% from the field, having an all-star type season. So a lot of people are now mixed. They're like, oh, I don't know if I want to trade Wood now. He's actually doing really good. And some people are like, yeah, trade Wood. Like, if the price is right, go ahead and do it. So what do y'all think about trading Wood? It's a very hot topic in the Rockets like fan base right now.
Yeah, it's a very hot topic. Last 7 games, his trade value has definitely changed dramatically. It's hard to really say. Christian Wood, a name I've heard thrown around in conversations with him, is PJ Washington. A lot of people want Kuminga, in exchange for Christian Wood. I don't think that's a realistic, solution that will happen. But ultimately, I don't know if the Rockets will trade Christian Wood. It really just depends on what they end up doing in the next few games, or maybe before the trade deadline. Christian Wood, he's been hooping. I don't know if they get rid of him. 24 and 14 in his last 7 games. That's just somebody you might just have to keep, and then maybe trade him at the deadline or after the deadline in the offseason. It'll really just depend. Another thing you have to factor in is how well he plays with Şengün. If you want to keep Christian Wood long term, you want to put him next to Şengün long term too. How well they mesh together. We haven't really seen them play together, because Christian Wood looks good as the lone big. So it's really interesting. I don't know if they'll move him, but like I said, PJ Washington has been thrown around. People want Kuminga. That won't happen. Just get that out your head. But yeah, I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit too early to tell right now as far as whether we should trade Wood or not. I don't think that we've seen enough. I think once the moment that we can start to think about really if Wood is going to be worth trading or not is once we can get a real sample size of Christian Wood with no other bigs except Şengün next to Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green. That's not something that we've seen a lot of so far this season, because once we took Tice out of the lineup, corresponded with the time that Jalen Green went down. So we haven't seen a huge sample size of Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, and Christian Wood with no other big men, spare Şengün, on the court. Once we see that, I think that's when we can really start to decide whether or not Wood is going to be a part of this team moving forward. Because at the end of the day, the fact is that Christian Wood is going to be, without a doubt, one of the hottest commodities available at the trade deadline, assuming that he is made available. So teams that are maybe looking to load up for that one last championship push could definitely be interested in a guy like Christian Wood. He can fit really well on basically any team. That's the beauty of a guy like Christian Wood. His offense is so dynamic and his skill set so dynamic. It's hard to see a team in which he wouldn't fit. And so I think you can really make a case for any team. And if Christian Wood can find a way to continue playing well with Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green, I don't see a reason to trade him. But if he struggles a little bit, then I think it is, you can consider trading him for a package surrounding maybe a guy like PJ Washington. No one's untouchable in the NBA, and Christian Wood can be acquired for the right package, but I think it really just depends on how he plays moving forward with this team fully healthy.
I honestly can't even tell you. Like, I've been like so up and down, like so bipolar about trading Wood, because in the beginning of the season I was kind of for it because he wasn't exactly playing the best, and I thought, teams have really, they found a way to stop him. We got to just get him out of here before his trade value plummets. Just get something from him. But with how he's been playing recently, it's changed dramatically. He's shown he is such a versatile three-way scorer from the paint, from mid-range, from three, an elite pick and roll, or an elite roller, in a lob threat. He can do everything. He's even improved defensively when he is the sole big man on the court. And, the best part about Christian Wood is he's on a steal of a contract. He's only making $13 million. Any team, even if they are like, towards, the cap limit and whatever, they can still do it. The reason that the Warriors are showing up in these trade rumors is because even though they're paying max money to guys like Steph Curry, like Klay Thompson, like Andrew Wiggins, like Draymond Green, all making like almost 20 million or more, they can still get a guy like Christian Wood because he's only making $13 million. He's one of the steals contracts, just an amazing deal. And we also have team control of him for this year and next year. So any team that wants to compete for him can definitely find a way to do that. And, whether they throw in some young guys, some picks, whatever the Rockets want, I just have faith in Rafael Stone. He's made pretty much all the right moves at this point. So if he does trade Wood, I'm pretty sure he knows what he's doing. That's why he's making all the money. He's making the big decisions. But at the same time, I've kind of got pretty like happy about having Wood here. So it's like I really don't want to see him go. But if it has to go, it's a business, and we gotta do what we gotta do to win.
Yeah, it's so hard. Like for me, it's just like you trade a guy for someone who can potentially be an all-star when we already know he's kind of already an all-star. So it's just like you have a known versus unknown is like so hard to think about. I know you can package like picks for a guy of like an all-star caliber, but like it's just a really tough decision. So it will be interesting to see what Stone does with that. But let's go on to the next question. Let's see. Someone asked on Twitter, at KPJX at KPJX Green X asks, how do you feel about KPJ at PG?
I feel great about Kevin Porter Jr. at point guard. Throughout these last few games, with the spacing being a lot better, Kevin Porter Jr. has been facilitating a lot better over those first 3 games that they won before he really got hurt towards the end of the stretch that we're on. He was averaging over 10 assists a game, 10.67 assists. Turnover was still around 4. But just the fact that he's able to operate so much more in space, and the combination of him and Christian Wood, that pick and roll has been working amazing. So I feel great about Kevin Porter Jr. at point guard, but he just needs to always know he's a bucket first and a facilitator second. And again, in those last few games, he got hurt. He didn't play the full game. He came out and he hit 3 threes in the first quarter, I think, in both of those games. Then he came out because of that thigh contusion he got due to Draymond's hack on him. Screw Draymond, by the way. But yeah, so KPJ, he's good at point guard. The Rockets need to give him time. He's 21. People would stop saying he's a turnover machine. Yes, he is, but I mean, he's going to be fine at point guard ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen enough at this stage of Kevin Porter Jr. And his position change. I think it's just all about the flashes. He doesn't have to be consistently producing at like Chris Paul level assist to turnover ratio numbers. As long as you can see flashes of his vision and his passing ability, that's really all you need at age 21. And I think with that, I've seen enough to say that Kevin Porter Jr. can be the point guard of the future. We've seen games where he's had 9 assists, he's had 10 assists, he has double-digit assists in a couple of games now, I believe. There's certainly the numbers there backing up Kevin Porter Jr. being a point guard. I think it's just a matter of, as he starts to round out his game, he's still just 21. As he starts to round out his game and starts to get more chemistry playing with these guys, it's still only been like, it hasn't even been 25 games yet with these, with the rookies, with Sengun, and with all these guys. So there's a lot of new faces on this team that Kevin Porter Jr. is still trying to get used to, because remember, he only played 23 games last season as well. So he hasn't even played 50 games yet in a Rockets uniform. So there's still a lot of time for Kevin Porter Jr. to learn. And for the moment, I'm absolutely confident in him being the point guard of our future.
Right, and with Kevin Porter Jr., whether he is not a point guard, like that's not the position that he came into the league that scouts drafted him at. He came in as a lengthy 2 or a 3, right? So like each year he was like moving his position. He moves on the Cavaliers his rookie year, he was a 3, playing next to Darius Garland and Colin Sexton. Then he came to the Rockets his first year, he became a 2, playing next to John Wall. And now he's playing at the 1. So it's like he's changing every single year. Yes, the turnovers are going to be there. It's what you expect from a guy who you're just throwing at a new position, and he has all the ball handling duties at this point. So he's going to learn, like you guys mentioned, he's only 21. He's only going to get better. And, he's going to become more smart with the guidance of guys like John Wall, like John Lucas. All these guys are able to open the court for him, open his eyes, tell him, hey, this is what you did wrong. This is what you could have done better. You got to do this, 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 this. And it's a learning process. This is what we have to, but this is like the things that we have to enjoy when we're having a rebuilding team. We can't take this stuff for granted. Yes, we're going to make a lot of mistakes. Yes, we're going to lose a lot of games, but every single game that we lose, every single turnover Kevin Porter Jr. makes is going to make him a little bit better. And that's all we can really ask for. Now, whether or not he is our future point guard is, it really depends. Maybe in this draft, we get a guy like Ty Washington, like a Jaden Ivey, who are, better ball handlers, or, maybe guys like Jalen Green, Jayshawn Tate develop more ball handling duties, and that can take a lot of pressure off of guys like Kevin Porter Jr. So he doesn't have to be the sole ball handler. He doesn't have to be the sole point guard. He just got to be able to do his part, which is score buckets, play defense, and facilitate when necessary.
Yeah, I don't know how much y'all believe in this stat, but like in potential assists, Kevin Porter has 10.8 potential assists. So maybe it's just a matter of like teammates not making their shots. And I think in our winning streak, I think the Rockets are shooting like phenomenally. Like I don't know, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I've seen like many stats saying like I don't know how much we can like keep this up, this really great shooting streak, but I think when we have like KBJ hasn't played too many games in our winning streak because of injuries and stuff, but like if we surround him with like if he plays more games to Garrison Matthews and with everyone just shooting the ball like generally well, then like we'll maybe start to see those assist numbers go up. And I know like his connection with C Wood is improving game by game. Like it's just gonna improve like overall his point guard role. So I don't have any doubts about KBJ, and obviously he's still very, very young. So, and he's learning from John Wall consistently. So that's a really good thing to see. So, all right. So our next question comes from Twitter. At FootballGod789 asks, who is the most underrated player on the team?
Most underrated player. That's a good question. I'll go from a league standpoint. Anytime I talk to my friends, they really underrate how good of a basketball player Alperen Sengun is already. At such a young age, has, in my opinion, the most IQ on the team, and he got a head start playing in Turkey. He won MVP over there, averaging 19 and 8. He just the craft that he shows on the court, it really, like the IQ just screams at you when he's on the court. It's really insane. And he does something new every game, and his post game has gotten better. He wasn't a shooter coming in to the league, and now he's already shooting around 40% last time I checked. I know he's been on a little shooting slump lately. But just the fact that he's already this advanced at a young age, at 24, 25 games into his career, I think that just underrates him to people who don't really watch the Rockets. If this guy was on the Lakers, he'd be all over the news. I promise you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to say anyone except Sengun. I live in Toronto, so I live in an area that's not very familiar with the Rockets. That's not a lot of people regularly watches. So not a lot of people know about Sengun except for people who are diehard NBA fans around here. And so, I mean, like you said, talking to my friends about Sengun is kind of weird because most of those guys either A, haven't heard about him, or B, really don't know much about him. And so, I mean, I was talking to one of my friends who said Sengun wasn't good because all he was looking at was box score numbers. And so, exactly. So people really underestimate Sengun because they don't watch the games, right? But again, the potential is endless. I mean, the Jokic comparisons are a little bit overused at this point, but it's really hard to deny the comparisons. You know what I mean? The vision, the footwork in the post, the passing ability, they're all, I mean, honestly, I would go out as far as saying as comparatively between rookie Jokic and rookie Sengun, Sengun is, I think, a miles better passer. And he still makes passes basically every game that makes you go like, how did he do that? You know what I mean? Like, it's just incredible the level of playmaking ability that he's demonstrated in the NBA level already. When going into the draft, that was not one of his major plus points. A lot of people were talking about it, but mostly people were talking about his footwork in the post and his scoring ability. Not really a whole lot of chatter about his playmaking. Of course, that eventually did come to the light, but the fact that Sengun has been playmaking so well at this level, the assist numbers aren't demonstrating the level of vision that Sengun has demonstrated so far.
I mean, you know, both of you guys shed that light on Sengun, so I think I'm gonna go a little different route. I think I'm gonna shed a little bit of light on my boy Jason Tate. I just love his game, the way that he approaches it with his defensive mindset. Whenever he's in the lineup, everything just seems so much better. He has a leadership role, and this is, you know, it's crazy because he's only in his second year of the league. Granted, he is a little bit older, but he has taken a leadership role, and it's really, really great to see. He's always guarding the guy's best defender on the opposite team. And, you know, he'll have nights where if everything is going wrong, if guys are injured, whatever, against like the game against Thunder, he dropped 32, had like above 10 rebounds, had 5 blocks. He did everything you can ask for. And, you know, a lot of guys compare him to like a PJ Tucker, but like PJ Tucker can't do what he does. PJ Tucker is a corner 3-point shooter who plays defense. That's it. Jason Tate has a bag. And, you know, the best part about his thing is there are no set plays for him. You know, he's not going to like, they're not going to run like screen sets, whatever it might be, and get him an open 3. No, he gets his games. He gets his points and his buckets by, you know, charging at the rim. You know, his post move. He has an amazing touch with his left hand at the rim, his hook shots. I have no idea how he gets those off. You know, sometimes he'll be like crowded by like 3 players. He'll still get it off. He has that dog mentality. And, you know, again, one last aspect, his durability. You know, he played almost every single game last season. He's basically our new Iron Man. So, you know, whenever he's on the court, everything just seems a lot better. And he's shown so much improvement on his 3-point shot, on his playmaking, and, you know, the sky's the limit for him. He's very underrated, not just you know, for his age, his IQ, and the way that he, you know, brings that mentality to the game.
Yeah, y'all named some great players like Sengun, Tate. I think might say a person who y'all might not think about as an underrated player for us, but I think as a backup point guard, I think DJ Augustine has been pretty kind of underrated, especially in the last game, like when EG went out and then over the stretch of without Green and KPJ. I think he's done a pretty great job as like a point guard role, like as a backup point guard. Like his efficiency is pretty good overall. So I think DJ Augustine's kind of been underrated over these past few games. Not saying that we need to keep him or anything, but like I think he's kind of the more underrated players on our team. And also, so let's talk about more on Sengun. There we have a few questions in the YouTube chat. So Spirit of Life asks, will Sengun start the season?
I think those minutes can definitely open up. It really starts with Christian Wood again. If they want to keep Christian Wood long term, I think it really would help if he could play with Sengun as well on the court. You know, those minutes need to be meshed, in my opinion. You want your best players on your team to gel together and play on the court together. You know, right now, I think Sengun already is a top 5 player on the team, in my opinion. So I'd like to see him get those minutes he deserves. But at this moment, you know, Christian Wood is obviously a much better player as the lone center. So it's hard to get Sengun in the starting lineup unless Steven Salas says, okay, if we want to keep, you know, Wood long term, we need to see how he fits next to Alperen Sengun. So we're just going to throw them in the starting lineup together and see how that works. It'd be like an experimental kind of thing. Maybe they can do after the trade deadline. But right now, what they're doing is working. I don't think they're going to change anything anytime soon. I think if Sengun does start, it's after the trade deadline or if someone just happens to get hurt. But it'll come down to that.
That is definitely dynamic as far as the future. If Christian Wood is going to be here long term, he's obviously going to have to learn how to play with Sengun, and I think that's going to be a dynamic for later in the season. But I think in the short term, it's going to come down to if Sengun can cut down on his fouling. There's been a lot of fouls by Sengun in really, really quick spans, and once Sengun can start to get his foul numbers down, that's when he's going to get the opportunity to start, because there's no point in starting Sengun if he's going to be on the bench midway through the first quarter with 2 fouls anyway. And then, if his minutes are going to get cut short because of foul trouble, there's no real point in starting him except for the number in the stat sheet that Sengun started. So I think it's better that for now we let him earn his start by fouling less, being smarter with his defensive, especially with the fouling part. Once he can get that down, I think that's when he can start to earn his job in the starting lineup, because there's no point in starting him if he's just going to be in foul trouble and miss out on like half the potential minutes that he could play in the starting lineup.
All right, I definitely agree with you there about the foul trouble. I also just want to add another point. I really like this chemistry that Sengun has developed with 3 players in particular, with DJ Augustine, Armani Brooks, and with KJ Martin. I don't know if you guys see it in the games too, but he has like this specific move that he does with every single player. With DJ Augustine, it'll be like a pick and he'll get quick dribble handoff with him. With KJ Martin, it's when he's cutting to the rim, he'll do a quick bounce pass and everything. Armani Brooks, he'll just set the screen, have Armani run behind him and shoot the 3. He is a guy who's been able to develop that chemistry with these guys, and it's really made him flourish with that bench unit. He's always doing the right thing with them offensively, and he does his best on the defensive end too. He takes charges at times, he does whatever it takes, and it's great. Again, though, there is one also concerning problem, and that is that 1, he's only 19, and 2, he's not physically big enough to guard against these centers in the league. If you could see against the game where we played the New Orleans Pelicans, there's a reason that Daniel Tice started that game, because they were playing Jonas Valanciunas, and Sengun would have been absolutely bodied by Valanciunas. Like, I love him, but he's going to need couple years to really get in the gym, get in that weight room, get his body up to shape, NBA ready, and from what I've seen with him, the way that he's flourishing with the bench role, I don't want to change it right now. But if you can cut down those fouls, show that you can get that same chemistry with the starters and really like bulk up in order to guard these big men in the league, absolutely give him the starting spot.
Yeah, and like Jaleel Johnson was asking, like, are y'all concerned with his foul trouble situation? I think like whenever he commits a foul, he's like super confused. He's like, what? I didn't do anything. But I think that could be just like a thing of like communication, or I don't know, like obviously there is that language barrier, but I think once he starts playing more games, I don't think that would be too much of an issue. So let's go to the next question. It's Houston Sports Talk asks, what do you think we can get for Tice?
I haven't looked into a lot of trade scenarios, but when you look at Daniel Tice, there's definitely a team, I'm sure, that's out there that would need a backup center. The Rockets really don't need value in return. Like, when I say value, I mean like another player that would come in and start playing minutes. And in this situation, you're trading $9 million. Let me think. You have 4 years, 9 years, $9 million a year. I don't know what they can get for that. Ideally, I would prefer some picks or just a guy that's on an expiring contract. I'm assuming they can go out there and make that happen. Daniel Tice, I've always said he's on a very movable deal, so it's not going to be too hard to trade him if somebody really wants to grab him. But in regard to an exact, estimate of what I think we can get for him, I don't know. But I would hope expiring contracts and maybe a pick, probably a second, to be realistic.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about a team that could potentially use Daniel Tice. I don't know. You guys can tell me. I think the Timberwolves could possibly use a guy like Daniel Tice if they're trying to make a postseason push, add some defense in the front court with Karl Anthony Towns. They've been good defensively to start off the season, but I think that's a little bit unsustainable given the talent that they have. It's going to regress back to the mean at some point just because the defenders that they have aren't capable normally of playing at the level that they're at right now, unless they've made some crazy jump defensively in the offseason, which I don't think is the case. If that isn't, I think Tice could be a pretty good fit there. There are a bunch of other teams as well. I just can't think of many off the top of my head. But as far as a package would go, I'm honestly fine as long as we can get like a high second round pick, because Tice isn't helping his trade value at all by not playing minutes and logging DNPs every game for us. So his trade value is what it is at this point, And if anything, it might get lower because teams are going to be thinking, if this guy can't get minutes on, the rebuilding Houston Rockets, how is he going to get minutes? For us, that's a little bit more nuanced of a question because fit is a big question. Also, the fact that he's a vet on a team looking to build around the youth. So that's a bit of a nuanced question, but Tice isn't helping his trade value logging DNPs right now. I think a second-round pick, a high second-round pick, and some salary filler with an expiring is what I'd be aiming for. If we can get like a first-round pick swap or maybe even a late first-round pick, I'd honestly consider that like a really good job by Stone as far as getting a return for a guy who isn't even playing minutes for us basically at this point.
All right. For the team that I think would really, really benefit from a guy like Tice, I'm thinking the Denver Nuggets. You know, behind Jokic, they really have no one who can really play the center position and play like defensively, which we all know is Jokic's like worst thing. Not that he's a bad defender because he's been playing amazing recently, but like, you know, offensively, he's on this level. Defensively, he's just on this level. And I feel like if you have a guy like Tice backing up, because right now they're playing guys like like a scrawny Bull and like a second year Zeke Naji. Like they're not exactly the best of the best. You know, Denver is, you know, trying to make that playoff push, even though they have their injuries with Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. They still want to do that. And having a guy like Daniel Tice to, you know, fill that role that I believe it was like Isaiah Hartenstein was like their backup big. He was a really solid big for them. Shout out to the, you know, Rockets legend Isaiah Hartenstein. But, you know, I think like a team like Denver, and they can definitely give like, you know, some kind of salary filler, like a JaMychal Green or like maybe like a Will Barton, someone who they're really like, you know, not playing as much, but just any team that really needs a backup center who can roll to rim. Because one thing that we learned from Tice this season, he's not a bad player. He was just in a bad situation. You know, you can't play two big men like that. Tice is the type of player who flourishes when there's one big man on the court, and that's himself. He's a good defender. He's a great rim roller, and just, you know, he does his job well. You don't expect him to do too much. You don't expect him to do too little. He'll give you what you expect from him on a nightly basis. So, you know, definitely any team that's looking for, you know, just a solid backup center role player can definitely trade for him. And after the package, yeah, you know, like a second round pick, maybe 2 second round picks, something like that. But we'll probably have to take some kind of filler because, you know, teams don't really have just $9 million that they can just take in like that.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and just like go to the next question. So we'll try to end it at 7:30, but let's keep going. So Julio Johnson also asks, what are your guys' overall thoughts on the John Wall situation?
Well, the John Wall situation, it all starts with the offseason. The Rockets saw John Wall as a reserve. Obviously, John Wall, and he thinks he's an all-star player. He was an all-star caliber player. You know, he earned his contract back in 2017 when he was playing really good. But as of right now, John Wall, you're not the guy you once were. So, I mean, he didn't want to play, and they don't want to start him. And starting him takes away minutes from KPJ. The season right now is about developing Kevin Porter Jr. at point guard so he gets those maximum minutes and those maximum developmental minutes. He needs those. So John Wall, in my opinion, I'm personally okay with him coming off the bench. There's just no need to start him if he does come back. I don't think he wants to even come off the bench. You also have to think about people sometimes say, oh, you know, put John Wall out there and it'll up his trade value. Of course, that's not the case because John Wall just has a ridiculous contract that is very hard to move. Him playing will not really do anything to his trade value, in my opinion. Is the situation is what it is. If he's going to get moved from the Rockets, it'll be in the offseason if they buy him out or some team bites on him, which we don't know how realistic that is. But I guess if you want to ask about the situation right now, I'll be okay with playing him off the bench as long as it doesn't cut into KPJ's minutes. Maybe get Wall out there for 18 minutes, 20 minutes a game and give KPJ 30 to 28 minutes. But yeah, I just wouldn't start him. That's the last thing I would do.
Yeah, I think it's not productive for us to start him. First of all, it hurts KPJ's long-term development because he is going to be our starting point guard of the future. So logically, you're going to be benching Kevin Porter Jr. I don't think they roll out a 3-guard lineup with Wall, Kevin Porter Jr., and Green. So assuming that you are benching KPJ, it makes no sense to bench your point guard of the future who, once John Wall is gone, he's going to have to be running with the starting lineup. And so taking away a whole year of chemistry with that starting lineup doesn't seem like a very wise decision to me. Obviously, you can't bench your second overall pick, especially when those two don't even really play the same position. And after that, you can't really start John Wall for anyone else. So there's a bit of a dilemma here. You got a guy who wants to up his trade value, wants to prove to other teams that he still got something left in the tank and that he still can be a useful contributor on a championship level team. And on the other hand, you've got a rebuilding team that doesn't want to start a 31-year-old point guard in place of either their 21-year-old point guard of the future or their 19-year-old second-round pick or second overall pick, who's shown some really, really bright flashes. So there's a bit of a dilemma here, and I think until we can get a compromise on that, John Wall is just going to keep sitting and keep logging DNPs, and that's not something that I'm opposed to. I think I'm perfectly fine with that as long as the locker room chemistry doesn't get hurt.
With John Wall, this situation is very, very, it's weird. Teams don't really do that. This is like the first that like anyone's really had. So, Stone definitely has like his stuff cut out for him. He says whatever he's doing with this situation. But, with John Wall, I also wouldn't mind having him come off the bench. He would be an amazing, just, 6-man running with our bench unit, just giving us more versatility on the offensive end, with his able to, penetrate to the rim. He's has improved his 3-point shot as well. So, he is a great person, a great person who can play backup. He, can take someone like, DJ's Augustine's minutes. Pretty much, you'll be able to take, some like Eric Gordon's minutes. You get like, solid like 20 to 20, like 4 minutes per night. I'm not opposed to that because, if he wants to play, he wants to up his trade value, let him do that. But at the same time, I don't like his ego, the way that he's approaching this as, hey, I'm not going to be willing to come off the bench. I'm not going to be able to, get behind starting a 21-year-old and a 19-year-old. We know that, yes, John Wall is a veteran. He has a great IQ. He knows what he's doing. He has that experience and, that those accolades and whatever to like showcase for it. But, that's not what the Rockets are doing at this point. We want to rebuild. We want to focus on our youth movement. If John Wall can't understand that and take that leadership position role, which he would flourish in off the bench, then, just sit him out the whole time, because I'd rather, have him sit and, ruin the chemistry that's going on with him and like the front office than, ruin what we got going on with our young guys.
Yeah, I think Silas said that it would take like several weeks for John Wall to get in game shape. So I don't know if they're just like stalling until like trade, like another team comes up with a trade offer or something like that. But what I find kind of interesting is like Jalen Green posted on his Insta story like free John Wall. So like I thought that was kind of like interesting. Like whoa, like so like I don't know, like well yeah I don't know. I guess that's for another topic, I guess. But yeah, it seems like, but I think chemistry wise, it seems like it's all fine in the locker room. I don't think there's anything wrong there. I think KBJ, Jalen Green, and John Wall, they're all like talking to each other during the games, and I feel like it's fine that way. But it'll be interesting to see like the dynamic between Stone and John Wall and who's going to win that argument. But I think Stone is very firm on like us playing the young guys. So H-Town Drown asks, any guy in specific y'all would like to see the Rockets go out and trade for?
I would say, honestly, no. At this moment, the Rockets have a good young core that they can build around. I've never really had the thought this season, like, dang, the Rockets need to go out and get somebody. Maybe Cam Reddish. I've heard that name thrown around a lot. I'm not opposed to it, but there's no need for the Rockets to really go make a move for Cam Reddish. They have the picks to do it. But, at the time being, I like the Rockets and what they're doing. You have your 2 young guards. You have Jacob, who's going to be able to come off the bench for the Rockets, maybe even start at the 3 in the future. Jason Tate, not the oldest guy, 26. Christian Wood, they might keep him. Obviously, Şengün and KJ and Armani. I can go on and on. This is a young team. I really don't think they need to go out and get anybody, to be honest.
I think Cam Reddish, me and DJ, we've talked about this a lot in Niche too. We've talked about Cam Reddish a lot, about how perfect of a fit he would be for us. And he remains the one guy that I think would really help us if we could go out and get him. I still think that he is not going to be able to reach his full potential on the Hawks just because that team has progressed in their rebuild so quickly. It sort of left Cam Reddish behind with not really enough time to develop and become the guy that he really can be, because they're already contending. They can't wait for Cam Reddish to keep on developing. They're already trying to compete. They're already trying to win. So I think Cam Reddish could really use a change of scenery, a place where, he has more time, and he's going to have an organization that's going to be more patient with him, developing and just becoming the player that he really can be, which is a force two ways. And I think he would fit really well for us. But again, there's a lot of guys cut from the same cloth as Cam Reddish and in a similar situation as Reddish that I think could really, really work for us in the Rockets that are also pretty young as well.
Yeah, I mean, Cam Reddish should Cam Reddish would be great for this team. Just looking at what he brings defensively, he's a very good player. Offensively, he can get you a bucket here and there, and just his length and athleticism is really a great fit for us. He could play the three. We could run a lineup of Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, Cameron Reddish, Jay Shante, and Christian Wood. Like that's a really good starting five. Just like saying right there, but at the same time, I don't really know what the Hawks are planning on doing with him, because if you look at the salary cap, I don't think they're able to bring back both DeAndre Hunter and Cameron Reddish. So they got to pick one or the other. I think they're leaning more toward DeAndre Hunter because of his more like versatility on the offensive end. So if they don't do anything, then they might lose him for like nothing. That's the thing, and you don't want to lose a guy like that for nothing, because you can get a solid return from there. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of teams who would want a guy like Cam Reddish. So the Rockets are one of them. I wouldn't not mind throwing a pick, maybe like if we want to send Eric Gordon over there, like Eric Gordon and maybe like a Daniel House for like Cam Reddish, and like maybe a Gallinari to make tally purposes work. Maybe throw a pick here and there. So but it really just depends on what Stone does. Stone is the one who's going to make all the moves here. He's done great so far, and But if I could see Cam Reddish in a Rockets uniform, I would love that.
Yeah, honestly. Go ahead.
I'd like to add something really quickly, because I know we're a little bit low on time here, but I think Jaden McDaniels from the Timberwolves, I think he would be a really nice addition as well. He's averaging right now 6 points per game. His efficiency isn't the best, but I think it's mainly the defense that he brings, and I think he could be a really nice fit as well. I'm pretty sure he's the Timberwolves starting small forward, but he's only started about 11 of their games. I'm not sure if the Timberwolves are going to be willing to trade him, but if we can get him, he was one of the most underrated rookies from last year. I think he'd be a really nice fit as well if the Timberwolves are open to trading.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm more like leaning towards Brad's point about like Owen at the moment, because we're already like wanting our young guys to get so many minutes. Like so many people on our lineup like really deserve those minutes. So like we will go out and trade for another guy, like then we're going to be complaining like, why are our young guys not getting more minutes? So like I think right now it's just like not at the moment, but obviously after the trade, or like around the trade deadline when we move around some guys, maybe that'll change. But yeah, so the last question of the stream, Jalen Johnson asked, which team are you guys interested to see the Rockets play these next couple of games? For me, I think it'll be like the next game, tomorrow's game against the Bucks. How do the hot Rockets like fare against like the reigning champs and the Bucks? So I think that'll be a great game to watch, just to see how we like match up. See if we still got the streak alive. But what do y'all think?
I would say the Hawks game, only because I live in Atlanta and my birthday is this upcoming week, so I got floor seats to the game. I'm gonna be right behind the bench. I gotta see what Silas is talking about in the huddle. I gotta see all that stuff. So I'm excited for that game. It's gonna be a good matchup. I'll see Cam Reddish in person. Is he playing, guys? Do y'all know? DJ and Prezi? Is Cam Reddish playing right now?
I could not tell you. I'm not watching Hawk game like that.
You okay for Cam? You know if he's playing?
Yeah, I want to trade for him because I've heard great things. I've seen the highlights, but like, I'm not watching him right now. Hopefully he is, though.
You're good. I'll put you on the spot. But yeah, I'll be excited to see him and just see what the Rockets do in person. That close, too. NBA speed, that close is going to be amazing to see, but I'm excited for that.
I got a couple of games. The Hawks was one of the ones that I wanted to say. I think that is going to be a really interesting matchup, seeing how how our guards stack up against Trey and them. But I got a couple that I want to talk about. First of all is Rockets versus Cavaliers, for the obvious reason that, we're facing the third overall pick, Evan Mobley, and he's always going to be something to watch. And it'll be a really, really nice matchup. Two really young teams who are headed in really similar directions right now. Both of these teams move forward with their rebuild. Two really good backcourts. I'm not sure if Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green are going to be able to be back for this game, which is on the 15th, so it's in about a week. We're not sure if both of those guys are going to be back. But if they are, then you also get the added narrative of second versus third overall picks, because those guys have been really those guys have been so intertwined over the course of the season, just because of, oh, did you pass on who, so on and so forth. That is my game to watch. And also Grizzlies versus Rockets. If Ja doesn't play, those guys have still been, they haven't missed a beat. Even with Ja out, they're like, I believe 5-0 without Ja. It'll be interesting to see if they can continue that when we play them. But yeah, a couple of really good games upcoming on the slate. And then the other games are contenders. So again, really good teams. It'll be good to see that.
Yeah, to your question, Brad, about Cam Reddish, he apparently had a non-COVID illness, and he's like apparently 7 hours ago he went through a full practice, but it might be questionable for that, but maybe he'll play. But yeah, so right now he has a non-COVID illness apparently.
Right,
So
yeah, like for my last thing,
Yeah.
I wanted to talk of right after, like 3 days after the Cavs game, we do play the Pistons. Of course, Cade versus Jalen. I believe Jalen should be back by then. That's also going to be a fun matchup. Right now, Cade has been playing pretty well for the Pistons, but they're on, I believe, a 10-game losing streak. Somehow he's still getting all that love, and Jalen's still getting all this hate, even though Rockets are winning games. It's, a double standard, sucks. So I know Jalen's definitely got that circled on his calendar. He wants to go off like he did last time as well. But yeah, the game against Evan Mobley and the Cavs. Evan Mobley and the Cavaliers have been playing exceptionally well this year, from what, not just me, but just like everyone has been like expecting them to. And all this without Colin Sexton. So, props to them, shout out to them. They've been playing really well. But as well, the game against the Bucks. See, with this win streak we've had, we've played some pretty like mediocre teams and just teams that were just like rattled with injuries, versus I think the Bucks don't have any like, crazy injuries or anything. So they're still like a really good contending team, solid team. And if we're able to beat them, we can actually showcase like, hey, this streak is not just because, we're playing bad teams. We're actually like, kind of legitimate. This is like our potential. This is like, envisioning, foreshadowing like what's kind of like basketball and what kind of like how much winning this team can do in the future once they all develop. So, definitely that next game. But, every game is fun to watch. This team has really ignited this like fire, and it's just, I can't believe I'm enjoying a rebuild as much as I am. It's crazy to think.
All right, yeah, that pretty much wraps up the live stream. Go ahead and follow Brado NBA on Twitter. Thank you so much, Brad, for hopping on the live stream. Do you have anything else to like shout out or advertise about yourself?
I'll shout out Apollo Media. It's Apollo Houston on Twitter. Again, follow me and the rest of these guys here. You're already listening, but I'm happy you guys brought me on. It's my first live stream. A little nerve-wracking, I will say. It's a little different than those Twitter spaces we run. So obviously, myself, Don, Prodigy, and Zeke have been running Twitter spaces. So you can follow myself and see where to get those plugged at. But yeah.
Yeah, and make sure to follow, of course, at Clutch City ENTX on Twitter, where we post like daily about like the Rockets, Texans, and any other Houston sports content. So yeah, go ahead, follow our Twitter account as well. But thank you so much for watching, and we'll see y'all next time. Peace.